Communications at Terracon, and I want to be the first to welcome you to the all-employee annual meeting. We know that it's been a crazy summer and a beginning crazy fall, and so we want to first thank you for taking the time to just stop and meet with us today to talk about the company and our progress. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was if you are an individual employee calling in and you are the only person on your line, if you will kindly move to the group in your office that is watching this either in a conference room or a training room, that would be great. We have a limited number of lines, so we want to make sure that all offices get on. And with that, I will go ahead and do introductions today. We are all sitting in a little room around a speakerphone. So our presenters today will be David Gabry, our President and CEO, Don Verana, our Chief Financial Officer, and Michael O'Grady, our Executive Vice President for Safety and Materials. And then I will talk about shareholder communications at the end of the presentation. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to David.
Well, welcome everybody. I wanted to reiterate Vanessa's welcome and appreciation for you taking the time to be on the call today. I hope you find it informative. I do, just as a reminder, we had a call in January as part of our annual meeting, and this is an update for that, and we plan going forward this 2 calls per year approach. So any of the employees who are new to Terracon, since the January call, I'd like to welcome you to the company and to this call. I want to especially welcome the 2 acquisitions that were made so far this year, the RGA folks and the Neil Anderson and Associates folks, all on the West Coast, and appreciate, just so you know, we do make sure we're not overly early for you when we do these calls. So I appreciate you being part of Terracon and part of this call. We plan on a 1-hour call. To be honest, I think we may be a little bit up to 15 minutes over with 4 people speaking. It just tends to get a little bit long, but again, just a little bit past the 1-hour mark would be what I expect. The other logistical item that I want to bring up is you know, I think it's important for us to have this opportunity twice a year, but certainly if you look at the number of people, how spread out we are, and the technology involved, this is by no means a perfect medium or a perfect situation. So the bottom line, this tends to be a one-way conversation, if you want to call it that. But I know Vanessa's planning to put the presentation on social afterwards, and we certainly welcome additional dialogue through that process afterwards. So with that, as has become our standard procedure here, I wanted to start the meeting with an IAF moment, and what you see up here is Live IAF and our rules to live by. And really the purpose of the IAF moment here is for me personally to thank every one of you for all your engagement with our rules to live by. As you know, we rolled that out in the 2nd quarter. We did a lot of coaching and implementation in the 3rd, and as of September 1st is fully implemented, go live, including our safety accountability policy. It's been really encouraging to see the level of engagement with people. Some of that is inquiries, some of it is even pushback, some of it's a lot of questions. All that means to me is it matters to people, and that's really exciting. So with that, I also want to mention, as a reminder, these rules to live by were prepared by your colleagues in the company, and their purpose is to protect us against our most common hazards that we face every day in the company. And really, there is one purpose of these rules, and that is preventing injuries. And I think it is doing that. If you look at where we're going, and Michael O'Grady will talk about that soon. I also want to, and the last thing on this IAF moment is to sort of call this out in the context of our IAF implementation. I really do think that this rules to live by has been the most important step in the company in terms, since we launched IAF, in terms of being clear about how we could keep ourselves safe and being accountable to one another and making sure we do that. So again, thanks so much for what you've done, and we really look forward to this just becoming part of who we are at Terracon. Before we get into the meat of the presentation, a couple other introductory things I want to just go with you quickly. Don discussed this in January, but I want to also re-presence here. When we talk about our company, our future, and our success, we actually mean that literally, because we are a 100% broad-based employee-owned company. You can see here, just as a reminder, there are 2 ways in which we can be owners of the company. Over 3,000 of us are owners through our retirement plan, the 401k and ESOP. And then over 500 people are owners that made individual decisions to become owners in the company. The one thing I want to mention on individual ownership, for those that may be newer to the company, anybody who is with the company for 1 year of service, and that includes for acquisitions your previous service, are eligible to become individual owners within the company if they choose to do that. And in fact, the pre-offer letters just went out yesterday, and we now are in the process of the annual stock offering. So certainly consider how that may fit into your individual and your family's financial well-being, and we certainly welcome you to become an individual owner within the company. Just to put this in context, what's really exciting is that if you look at this National Association of Employee Ownership, they look at the top 100 employee-owned companies in any industry, across all industries within the company, and Terracon is now number 45, the 45th largest all-employee-owned company. We went from 53 to 45 this past year, so it's great to see. So again, as I go through this presentation, my focus is us as employee owners and an owner's perspective on where we're going as a company. I also want to catch you up on some other exciting things, recent awards and accolades. Since the spring, the annual Engineering News Record listing came out, and we continue to progress in that regard. We went from 38 to 35. You can see below that there are a number of specialty rankings, which we are very high in, and also regional rankings, the engineeringenr.com and the Business Journal rankings in various regions, and we're seeing more and more regions make that kind of presence in their marketplace. What was really wanted to draw particular attention to today is some of these other kind of acknowledgments. Certainly for the corporate office, healthiest employee in Kansas, one of the healthiest employee award for Kansas City, Champions of Business, Corporate Citizen of the Year. For the corporate office in the Kansas City regional office. But what I also wanted to point out in particular is that we're seeing more and more local offices as they engage in their community, being acknowledged for various aspects of what they're doing. Orlando, as you see in the first one, also has been acknowledged in terms of healthiest employer. Fort Collins in terms of bicycle friendly, service provider of the year, Oak City, and the Concrete Award for Salt Lake City. So we really thank you and encourage you to get increasingly involved as you get increasingly involved in your community. And it's great to see these awards. There may be some that we haven't heard about, so if you do have any of these, make sure you send them in to Vanessa so we can accumulate them and share your success throughout the company. I also want to present, we are up and running with our Terracon Foundation, and we had spring awards. These are the award winners for our community foundations, and we had 8 grants totaling $24,000 to the organizations where you personally are involved in committing your time and your talent to. So we love to see that. We also have continue to be committed to universities, and these are the grant for the spring awards, totaled $38,000 for these 6 grants. And then we also have a national partner grant each year, and we awarded $50,000 to ACE Mentoring, championed by Chattanooga office. and for the total spring, giving $140,000. I believe that the fall is just in progress, and I believe the applications just closed on September 30th. So we look forward to additional awards this fall to support the organizations that you care about around the country. In terms of today's topics, Michael is going to catch us up briefly on incident and injury free and where we are with that. Don is going to report financials, and then I'll get to more in detail about our operations, our plans, and our progress in a number of areas. Finally, Vanessa will come back and talk about communications beyond this call today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael, and he'll catch us up on IIF.
Thank you, David. And I just want to start out by saying, kind of reiterating a little bit of what you just said. There's a lot of great things going on out there around safety. We've implemented a number of things this year, and the employees out there in Terracon are making things happen. There's a lot of passion out there and a lot of great things happening. And I just want to spend a couple minutes talking about the progress we have made in 2014. When we put our plan together in 2014, we broke it up into tactics and goals that we had laid out, with the idea if we do these tactics, we're going to meet our goals, and we designed these around what we started out at the beginning of the year. We talked about our culture, our practices, and performance, and that's really the structure that I want to focus on in the next few minutes that I have. So let's talk about our culture first. One of the biggest things we were focusing on was we wanted more communication, and we've done a lot of that this year with direct email, where now every office is getting up-to-date metrics through David's biweekly, so we know exactly how folks are getting injured. Mark Huddleston and the corporate safety group is sending out direct emails to all employees on every recordable injury that we have, so folks understand how our folks are getting hurt again and what the hazards they're dealing with, as well as doing the same with critical near misses. Another area that we've made tremendous progress on is social. We're getting great dialogue, great feedback along those lines, lots of questions. As David said, there's a lot of healthy debate going on out there, and I think that's a good thing. Again, it means people care, and it's okay to have different views on things, but when we talk about it, and I've gotten calls myself, people wanting to talk about, why are we going this direction? Why is this important? How does this change what we were doing previously? And it's led to some great discussions. This whole rules and practices effort that we've had has been really good in getting the discussion going. And again, I just want to reinforce on that side about these rules to live by. It's first and foremost about positive reinforcement. We want people to see you out there wearing your PPE, and we need to reinforce that because that's what's going to keep us safe. And when folks have an issue where they didn't follow a rule or a practice or follow a best practice, that's an opportunity to, again, engage in a discussion and coach each other on that. And there's a lot of that going on out there in the offices right now, and that's a great thing. Another item that we tried this year for the first time was with other major IAF firms across the country, which is a lot of general contractors and big engineering companies that are IAF firms. We recognized Safety Week, and we did this really through a platform, through social, with a different topic every day. And again, it generated a tremendous amount of positive feedback and dialogue, and we actually have bigger plans for 2015 to do more around Safety Week. And then lastly was our annual IAF survey. And again, we continue to, and this is the feedback we're getting directly from the employees on how are we doing when it comes to safety, what are the opinions that you have, 10 simple questions that we're asking. We've made progress every survey we've done, and it continues to be that way. There was 2 key questions we focused on over this past year about where do we want to make progress, and one was on communication. This wasn't just that top-down corporate communication. It was office communication, because we did see some slippage on in the survey. People were feeling that there wasn't enough discussion within each office about what was being distributed about these injuries. And we've definitely seen an uptick. We've reversed the curve on that, and actually our net positive was 78%. Our goal was to hit 80%. And then similarly, on the project side, we wanted to tie safety in the project, production cost and schedule, and we've made some good progress there as well. And we're going to do a lot more in 2015 when it comes to project safety, so I'm looking forward to that. So talking about our practices, progress that we've made on there, David's already touched on our rules to live by. Very basic rules. and we feel these can have a direct impact at every level of the company. That led also at the same time, through a collaborative 100-day team, we also had another team dealing with hand safety. And again, outside of your eyes and your ears and protecting your head, your hands are something you use every day. One of the most important things you deal with. We need to keep ourselves safe in this area. And there's a number of injuries we've had throughout the year where the right use of gloves would have prevented an injury. And similarly, the use of gloves kept an injury from becoming more severe. So again, this is a critical issue and an important issue. And then similarly on the hand side, the most frequent injury we were seeing in the environmental service line was related to asbestos sampling. And again, environmental, kudos to them. They put out a 100-day team and worked on really getting the right tools as well as getting the right gloves to do the sampling. And I'll touch on in a minute the impact that's made on reducing injuries in environmental. Similarly, our replacement of DCPs, this was our technicians that were out there using this device, a very archaic device, but it's still recognized in the industry. It still has to be used. But we did replace all of our DCPs with a safer device. It's out there in place. And we had actually only, last year we had 5 injuries associated with a DCP. This year we've had 1, and it actually occurred while we were in the process of starting the rollout. So again, we've eliminated those injuries with the DCP. We need to reduce our injuries in drilling. We've made progress this year. Our workshops that we had this year was face-to-face. We brought all of our drillers together, focused on better training, safer practices, more communication. And then the last item is work care. And I want to take a moment just to touch on work care and talk about what it is. We thought this was important enough to make it part of our rules to live by. And I realize this is not about preventing injuries. Once you're calling work care, something's already happened. But this is about the caring side. This is about our commitment to get our employees immediate access to medical professionals. No longer, you don't contact your supervisor first, you contact work care first. And what does this do? Well, it provides immediate treatment and an assessment of the severity of the injury. And it can also prevent the injury from becoming more severe. What we've had in the past, we've had somebody tweak a back and then not report it, and then injure it later in the week, and it become a more severe injury. Similarly, we've had cuts become infections. And so it's about keeping an injury, treating it right, and keeping it from becoming a more serious injury. And then also it's about reporting more injuries. And you can see there how it's increased. This may seem counterintuitive that, oh, gee whiz, that means we must be getting less safe. No, what it means is people are reporting all of the injuries, no matter how small. And that's a good thing, because we need to learn how our folks are getting injured out there. Even the ones that are less severe, we can learn from. And how is this having an impact on us? Well, again, learning from it, we can see everything we're doing on our performance side. We can see our reportable, our serious injuries are going down. And similarly, as you saw on the previous graph, people are reporting more injuries, but we're being able to control the injuries and keep them from being less severe. And the practices we're putting in place, the rules we're putting in place, are keeping our reportable injury rate down. Basically, this means less people at Terracon are getting injured. That's a good thing, and getting severely injured. Similarly, we made a goal of reducing our motor vehicle incidents. We have over 1,500 people out there driving company vehicles every day. Our goal was to get it below 2 in 2014. We've done that. We're at 1.4 projecting out through the end of the year. We know we'll hit that goal. Closing out on our performance, again, we do estimate through the end of the year. Right now we have 26. We estimate 34. Is that a sure thing? No, we can prevent that. We can have it less. This is on us being safer. But the rate we're at right now, 34 folks are going to get injured. That's a great improvement, again, from last year where we had 46 people injured. But we can do better, and we still have a whole quarter to go. Let's be safer, and let's keep our folks from getting hurt out there. As I mentioned on the environmental recordables, we've dropped that 50%, all driven through what we've done on the hand injury side, since that was the most prevalent injury that we had in environmental. As I said, we've made progress in drilling, not the progress we want yet. This is still the most highest risk service that we have at Terracon, and we're going to do better. And I think the service line and our drilling folks have done a tremendous job, and we're looking forward to seeing a lot more progress in that area. Materials, our goal was to get our recordables down by 30%. We're on track at about a 20% clip. I will say our most prevalent injury injuries and materials are still coming from hand and back issues, as well as slip, trips, and falls, and our motor vehicle incidents. So even though we've dropped our motor vehicle incidents, we know there's a lot more we can do, a lot more areas we need to focus on, and that's what we're going to. And just closing out on the performance side, on the back and hand injuries, they are going up because again we're reporting more, but again the severity of those injuries has actually gone down, so that's a good thing. So closing out the remainder of the year, what we're going to be doing, some of the things that we've already mentioned. As I said, we've got the geotab, and we've been collecting that data for over a year. We've been working with the operations, developing a strategy for how we can develop a driver safety program. It was in David's bi-weekly this week, and we're actually starting the training with the managers on Friday and Monday and Tuesday of next week. And it's a train-the-trainer session, so they're going to be working with all their drivers through the month of October to roll out that driver safety program. We have another collaborative team working with operations on safer concrete sampling. This is not just what we think of as, most of our injuries have come from wheelbarrows. We are working on what are our options for a better solution to the wheelbarrow. So we're working on the equipment side of that, but we're also working on how can we do better pre-task planning, how can we warm up for work. And so we actually have a safer concrete sampling procedure that we're going to roll out by year end. And then into the first quarter and second quarter of next year, we're going to be working on the equipment side, as I mentioned, on the wheelbarrow side. We've got some offices out there doing some really neat things with experimenting with wheelbarrows and carts. Some of you, we actually posted a video out on social regarding the Cedar Rapids office using a cart and a wheelbarrow and showing the amount of strain it took for one versus the other. So it was actually a great exercise. And the last item is lab safety procedures. Again, we have our several key lab managers focusing on improving our lab safety procedures around things like chemical safety, cylinder stripping. There's 20 procedures they're working on. We're going to roll out several of those by year end. And then this next one here goes to all of our service line employees that dealing with Rule 6 and 8 on what is issues that can result in serious injuries if we don't have our folks trained the right way. And that's excavation safety, fall protection, and scaffold safety. And in David's bi-weekly, he talked about the auto enrollment that we're going to be doing with all the service line employees, and we want to get this all done by year end. And it will be what we've seen out in the industry as a best practice is this is not a one and done thing, it's an annual refresher issue. And so all employees will go through this on an annual basis. And then as I touched on hand and back safety, this is again a big issue for us in 2015, and I just want to close with a few numbers here. This still remains 43% of our incidents or injuries and materials are hand and back related. 69% of our injuries in drilling are hand and back. And in geo and environmental, it's 20%. So again, we have a lot of work to do in this area, and if we can eliminate our hand and back injuries, we'll go a long way to keep our people safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We're having a thunderstorm here, so if you hear this microphone picks up everything quite well, so that's the bad news. So anyway, appreciate Michael on the IF, and Don is going to overview financial performance year to date.
Thanks, David. Just as a reminder, and I think as the shareholders report said, these results will exclude the results of Neil Anderson since the acquisition in April 1st, but we have been able to include the RGA acquisition in our numbers. So the numbers you'll see do include RGA, but they exclude NOA, which will be in our financials before the end of the year. On a quarterly basis, as you're aware, we just finished the third quarter, and this slide gives you the revenue by quarter for 2013 in the dark gray and 2014 in the light gray, and you can see by quarter we've been pretty consistent in 11% increase in Q1, a 15% increase in Q2, and a 14% increase in Q3. And as I think you're aware, we were a little concerned in Q3 that we weren't going to be able to keep that revenue growth percentage up because of the strong second half of the year we had last year. But certainly we have been able to do that, and going to 14% in Q3. And as we look into Q4, the first 3 weeks of period 10 are up about 10%. So we're hopeful that we can carry this type of increase through the remaining 4 periods of the year. And we focus a lot on consistent growth. Certainly we talked about prosperous growth as one of our initiatives, and really the box there kind of outlines for us, consistent revenue growth allows us to create more jobs and advancement opportunities, and we do have approximately 350 more employee owners this year than we had last year at the same time. Of the $319 million, which those 3 quarters added up to for the year, this is how it breaks down by service line. Not much change from a historic basis. Materials is in the yellow or orange. It's 39%. Environmental in the dark blue at 29% and $94 million. Geotech at $91 million, 29%, and facilities at $11 million at 3%. So that's the breakdown on service line. In terms of growth by service line, you can see that environmental up in the green bars are for 2014 year to date. The blue bars are 2013. So for the year to date, you can see environmental's up 12%, facilities up 19%, geo up 21%, materials up 8%, and then overall as a firm we're up about 13% in revenue year over year. In terms of operating income, kind of the same story from a quarterly perspective. Q1, we really blew it out there, going 243%, even though it's only $5 million for 3 periods, 243% increase over the prior year, 48% in Q2, and 13% in Q3. And again, we had a strong second half of the year last year, so it's good to see that increase in operating income in Q3 as well. And one of the accomplishments, I guess, if you will, from in period 8, we actually did $6.7 million of operating income in period 8, and that was the highest level of operating income we've ever had. The next closest period was $5.5 million in period 6 of 2007. So it took us a long time to break that record, if you will, of period operating income. And again, in period 8, it was $6.7 million. So why do we focus so much on operating income? Obviously, you have to have income to provide the resources to increase employee compensation, maintain competitive benefits, and of course, reinvest in our business through acquisition and technology, which we certainly have been doing here recently. On a year-to-date basis, gross revenue is $319 million. I mean, we continue to set records, obviously, as we continue to grow. About a 13% increase over 2013 numbers on a year-to-date basis. As we bring on Neil Anderson, that'll increase at about 1%. If we had those projected numbers in here, they'd be increase about another 1%. On the operating income line, $32 million in operating income. At the 10% margin, we always talk about 10 to 20% revenue growth and 10% margins, and certainly we're in that sweet spot, if you will, through the first 9 periods of 2014, and that's a 39% increase year over year in terms of operating income. And if you look at the increase in revenue, which was about $37 million, and we generated $9 million more of operating income on $37 million more of revenue, then actually on that incremental piece we generated about a 24% margin, which is certainly a great place to be. And then net income, we're up 48%, and net income is kind of, if you think of net income, kind of like your take-home pay. It's how much you get at the end after everything's paid for and done. So it's good to see that number up 48% on a year-to-date basis. Progress towards the budget, and I'll probably start with the box first. And you know, I talk about the budget a lot and why it's critical to meet the budget. And basically, the annual budget we give to our banks, to our independent stock valuation firm, to our insurance carriers who provide us several $1 million of insurance on an annual basis and are certainly concerned about our financial well-being. It's important that we achieve this budget to give these groups confidence that we can understand and predict our business. And ultimately, this results in usually more favorable rates and more consistent stock performance for us. So in terms of the budget, you can see one of the board members asked me at the board meeting last week, if how we can get this close to the budget, and I can assure you we're not messing with the numbers. This is kind of just how it comes out, because we are, labor's basically right on, and we're revenue's $5 million over, and operating income is about $5 million over. But going down to the next level, we do have about half the divisions that are over budget, and about half of the divisions that are under budget. So they kind of all washes out this year, and certainly we'd love to get all the divisions, or certainly more of the divisions, up over budget, and continue working on that going forward. Indirect expense leverage. I've talked about this. I think I talked about it a little bit in the past. As we grow our revenue, we should be able to reduce our indirect expenses as a percent, because that revenue is there, and our fixed expenses should not be increasing. And we're seeing a little bit of that, quite a bit of that through the first 9 periods. As you can see, as a percentage of labor revenue, we were up over 35 and even 36 in 2013, and through the 9 periods, we're at just a little under 35%. So certainly good progress on the indirect expense leverage on the fixed side. This really relates to the kind of the fixed side when we're talking about leverage. On the variable side,
Don just mentioned, because we get so used to these terminologies, but for employees that may not be as familiar, indirect expenses, meaning then indirectly they're not project expenses, and it means they're basically overhead expenses like rent and employee benefits and all those kind of things. So sorry to interrupt.
Yep, that's right.
Again, we all have gotten so accustomed to these terminologies, and for some employees they may not be.
Thanks. So on the indirect expense, leverage really relates to the fixed things like David talked about. Rent is kind of a fixed expense. There's other things that are fixed, but certainly we have variable indirect expenses as well. And certainly, as employees and employee owners, we want to look at ways that we can lower indirect expenses, and these are really variable indirect expenses as we've talked here, and the first one is, to follow up on Mike's presentation, is be safe. Medical and workers' comp insurance are certainly are 2 of our largest expenses on the income statement on an annual basis, and on a medical basis, we'll spend probably close. The total claims on medical are over $20 million this year. So certainly the be safe helps in a number of areas besides going safe to your family every night. It also helps as a shareholder from a financial standpoint. Travel, the non-chargeable portion of travel is certainly part of doing business. I think it's most people do a good job of this. Travel smart, book ahead, use video conferencing for internal meetings if possible. Quality and APR is certainly critical to our customer service and our client relationships, but it also certainly helps us on the litigation side. Obviously, the better quality and the diligence we have in the APR program, the less litigation we have, and we certainly have seen that over the last couple of years, and it's trending that way as well in 2014. Take advantage of our purchasing power, take advantage of our national agreements. These things the national agreements are negotiated by our procurement department for supplies and services, and we have these agreements in place, and certainly it costs us money if we're buying things outside of those national agreements. So to the extent you can, buy under those contracts, and certainly that'll help us from a variable indirect expense standpoint. And certainly company vehicles as well are a big piece of our expenses. So when available, use company vehicles and charge to a project if it's allowed by the contract. So those are at least 5 high-level ways that you can affect variable indirect expense. On a chargeable percentage basis, certainly that's a metric we all pay a lot of attention to. What this does is it gives you the 2013 chargeability percents in the blue bars, and 2014 in the green bars. And you can see for the first 7 periods, with the exception of period 2, we were significantly over the prior year. And now in period 8 and period 9, we talked about how we had a good second half. We dropped a little bit and we're a little bit under last year's chargeable percent in period 8. And period 9. And certainly we do have good year-over-year progress in increasing chargeability, but we're starting to see some weakness there. And in our peak periods like this, if you draw a line across this chart at kind of at the 60% line, you know, that's really where we're really making some good operating income at the 60% line. And just as an example, in period 9, we logged about 600,000 hours of time in period 9. So a 1% increase in that 600,000 hours of time would be 6,000 more hours of chargeable time. And our average rate of per hour that we're invoicing our clients is somewhere around $75 an hour. So if you take 6,000 hours times $75 an hour, we would have put about another $450,000 to $500,000 of profit to the bottom line. So I don't want the 1% or 0.3 or 0.6 to make it seem like it's not a big deal, because a 1% is a big deal in terms of operating income and profit, as I'm sure you're all aware. On the write-down side, we've continued to have good progress there. Last year at this time, write-downs were at 2% of labor, 2.8% of labor revenue. Currently, we're at 1.8% on a year-to-date basis. We were budgeted at 2.7, and we are expecting to maintain or reduce those write-downs through the end of the year. And certainly, we focus a lot on write-downs, but as I said in some of my previous correspondence communications and the shareholder communications, write-downs aren't necessarily bad if they're known on the front end. We incorporated them into the proposals, and we manage to those budgeted write-downs. So I don't want people to get too crazy on ooh, I got to write down, so that's a bad thing. Write-downs aren't always bad things as long as we know them and can manage to them. In terms of our backlog, our contract or hard backlog, basically this is the estimated fees we have in our system that we haven't worked on yet. So our contract or hard backlog at December 31st was $176 million. Our contract backlog at the end of period 9 was $211 million. So one of our initiatives was to build backlog, and certainly we've done that. We're maintaining about a 22-week run rate of revenue, which is a great indicator of future growth, and certainly sets us up pretty well for 2015. On the negative backlog, which for those of you that aren't familiar, negative backlog is the work performed over scope or over fee or without a contract, where we do work without a contract. So our negative backlog is about $9.3 million for the projects that don't have contracts or are over scope. And really a lot of this was based on just getting our system cleaned up. But we had about $100 million in negative backlog last year, which certainly I appreciate everybody working on getting the estimated fees accurate and getting a true negative backlog, because it does do a nice job from my standpoint of identifying and quantifying the possible collection risk that we have in our projects. So we've made some good progress there, but we still have some little ways to go on that. In terms of accounts receivable and accounts payable, I've presented this a little bit differently. We normally talk in days outstanding, which is at the bottom. We're currently at 84 days. Our goal is 80, so we are slipping a little bit there. But I do want to focus on the 60 to 90 days past due, if you will, on accounts receivable and the WIP. Accounts receivable about $8 million, 8% of our total. Accounts receivable is between 60 and 90 days, and about $11 million, and 12% is over 90 days. So, certainly anytime it gets past 60, we're concerned of collection. On the WIP side, it's $1 million over 60 to 90, between 60 and 90, and $1 million 90 plus. And certainly those again don't seem like big numbers, but the longer they go out there, WIP certainly the longer it ages, the more difficult it is to bill. So, and it's a cash flow issue, so we certainly want to keep that WIP down, and I know you're all working on that. So our total AR and WIP as a firm is $119 million. So the reason I circled that number, and it's in the bottom, is that really means we're lending our clients about $119 million. And the quicker we can collect that, obviously the better it is for cash flow. And one day, as we've talked about before, one day outstanding equals about $1 million of cash flow. So if you think about it, we're going to increase revenue this year, year over year, by about $45 million, which is what the budget is. So at 84 days, it costs us about $10 million in cash to increase that revenue by $45 million. So it is it's certainly a accounts receivable whip, or certainly a cash flow issue. In terms of financial takeaways, we had excellent results in the first 3 quarters. Thank you to everyone that certainly all of you have had a part of that, and as employee shareholders, we should all be proud but not satisfied with those results, and try to drive it through the end of the year. Certainly, revenue is the great elixir, if you will, of the financials. So we need to continue to drive revenue, build backlog, and finish the year strong, setting us up for 2015. Stay focused on chargeability. As I mentioned, we're starting to see some pockets of weakness. Nothing to get too alarmed about, but certainly that chargeability is critical to our financial success. Turn up the project management discipline. Ensure there's no surprises at year end. I think we are doing a much better job of managing our projects, but if there are write-downs, if we do know that there's some softness in a project, let's get that taken care of and take the write-downs when they're known. And on the indirect side, as I mentioned, let's maintain good fiscal discipline over the variable indirect expenses, and we'll end up finishing the year very well. So thank you again, and I'll turn it back to David.
Thank you, Don. It always feels like we're sending out a lot of information here, and I think beyond just the information, I hope you see the passion and the excitement and the commitment on the part of the leaders here and what they're doing and how they're contributing to the company, and for your support of all of that. So it's really exciting to see. We're going to transition here and look both a little bit very much ahead in a big picture sense, and also look back a little bit about progress to date again. And this is again an important spot here for you to. I know you all have reports and times and getting back to work and all that kind of stuff, but as really put on your employee owner hat here, and as we go through this, I'll be talking about the company and where we're going, big picture, long term, and that's great. At the same time, be thinking about how do you contribute to that, how is it impacting your job, how are you taking advantage of the changes and things we're doing within the company. So I want to segue here a bit from the facts and figures to the overall strategy and big picture for the company. One thing I'm personally very passionate about is how can I communicate to you as employee owners, and have you see as employee owners how things fit together and how things come about. Because the worst thing in a company is for people to see things happening and they're not sure where did that come from, why are we doing that, and it becomes confusing. So what here is a very simple, maybe oversimplified picture, and of the things that I want to talk about today. This slide is probably the most important one. So as employee owners, if you can see everything we're doing in the context of these 5 interrelated sort of puzzle pieces, it would really help your ability to contribute to the company and your ability to support the things that we're trying to do as a company. The 5 things you can see here it all starts with everyday operations that you're involved with. That's where you spend your time. We also want to do more than just everyday operations, and that speaks to our purpose. Where are we trying to go longer term as a company? What's our vision? That's our strategic plan. How are we going to implement that vision? That's our operations plan. So I want to speak to these things in a little more detail, but this is a very important picture for each of you to see as owners here, but also see how it's coming into play as you go about and we're implementing various things within the company. And all of this is about constant change and improvement. Driving that change and improvement, the faster we go, the more competitive we can be, the more successful we will be. So this is an important slide for our overall continued success, and let me just walk through some of these. Certainly as a company, you're very familiar with this idea of we have a central to all of what we're doing here is our purpose, and the statement is delivering success for employees, clients, and communities. And how do we go about making that alive, relevant, and important to everybody in the company? It speaks to how can we all contribute to the well-being of our employees and families. How do we continue to help our clients be successful in their projects? And increasingly, how do we continue to and expand our contribution to improving the communities where we live and work? This will never be accomplished as such. It's always a work in progress, but it's central to what's driving us in the company. As I said, the other pieces of the puzzle, a key one, the fundamental one, is everyday operations. And what I mean by that in the context of this discussion today is going about delivering what we call our 3 R's, responsive, resourceful, reliable. And we're really seeing some great things. I want to share that with you in just a minute here. But that is our everyday operations, making that happen. And that means winning work and doing work. And certainly this is where we spend the majority of our time. As we go through this discussion, I want to stretch you beyond just everyday operations, because we also need to all be spending time in terms of these other areas, in terms of pieces of the puzzle. So what I want to do before I get into strategy or operations is just to share with you some aspects of everyday operations and the success that we're having. So let me just click through a few of these to update you on some of your success in everyday operations. In terms of clients, what's important for a company is we want the most attractive clients. They bring the best projects. They're financially, but also interesting, opportunities to grow and so on. And we are seeing some really good progress in terms of the quality of the clients that we are able to work for, including increasingly Fortune 500 clients. If you look at that, you see the whole list here. But if you just highlight a few of these, what's really neat to see is you see things like technology companies, Apple and Google. That's great to see, because you know the future with them is bright. We also are seeing, beyond our traditional retail commercial, we're seeing more industrial clients. Alcoa, Coca-Cola would be examples of that. We're doing some great work there. Another one that we're also seeing is some great niche areas. Some are growth ones, some are new to us, but we think we can do a lot of good in. So if you look at Ryder Trucking, logistics is a huge opportunity. We're just getting some great insights into, because if you look at the .com world, logistics is a key to that, as you know, with next day delivery of all of the stuff we order on the internet. So great stuff going on there. The other thing that is going on is major $1 million plus projects, and I want to point that out to complement our routine projects. So we are not, as a company, trying to move away from the more routine, smaller projects. We are adding the larger projects. Salt Lake City, a $10 million, one of the largest wins we've had as a company. But most importantly, it was probably one of the best and really shining examples of collaboration, corporate marketing, service lines within the operations in the West, but also in the Gulf Coast, other side of the country, helping them with client relationships and so on, and it really was a fantastic win. We also see, and we will see as a little view to the future, more international projects. This is the major geotech work at the airport in Saudi Arabia. And then the last one on the bottom here is a local win in Orange County. We have a number of offices, particularly in the West, but not only, where they've grown up on national account work, and we're really seeing them now become part of their local marketplace. This on-call with the city of Irvine in Orange County, we're seeing Seattle, places like that really get embedded into the local marketplace, which is exciting. So some really good stuff going on in the everyday work that people are trying to do to position ourselves as leaders. There are also other projects that are going on that reinforce our strategic plan as a company. Industrial hygiene safety, you can see some wins there. We continue to leadership in brownfields and expand that into different parts of Terracon. You see the city of Tampa and a brownfields project. They also won in Cheyenne a data center for Microsoft. And again, this is one project in Wyoming, but again, in technology-wise, this is a huge niche that's really growing and taking off, and we're seeing some great opportunities in it. We'll see more of that. So that's very strategic. from that point of view. The other thing, in terms of significant wins, you can see these are 3 roofing wins that the facilities services division have won. And really what this is about is we're really seeing our building envelope services, which was an aspiration within facilities, really come into its own. And this is looking at roof design, rehabilitation, and overall moisture control for the facade of a building. And we're really becoming players in that area, and it's great to see. National clients, again, we continue to diversify our national clients. I'll just say that briefly, present these clients as new expanded national clients. Below, at the bottom, what's really important is that we have a traditional view, for you that have been around a long time with Terracon, of our national clients as being retail commercial, but we are now well past the fact that we're concentrated in retail commercial. And what's good about this, you see a nice diverse client base. Certain retail commercial is about 1/3 of that, but the next ones after that, you see industrial, you see others that are AE firms are also big. So we have a nice diverse footprint, which means we're not over-invested in one. This would be like your portfolio in your financial investment. You don't want to be overly invested in one sector given the economic ups and downs. So this is a very healthy position now for our national account program. And again, all this is happening with your everyday efforts, both in terms of going after national clients, but being responsive when their work happens in your part of Terracon. The last thing in terms of everyday operations, I talked about this in January, and I want to re-presence it because in terms of, I speak, and some of you have heard me talk about this good to great idea. This is not an idea here. This is like literally going good to great in terms of client satisfaction. As you know, we do quarterly surveys with our clients about their satisfaction with what we do. We ask 10 questions, and we measure what's called net positive score, meaning the top box checks by the company, by the clients, and we subtract any low scores we get to be, that's why they call it net. And you can see here the progress that we've made. If you look at in the past year, well, 2 things. One, in terms of the actual scores, of 80% or better is really strong. And you can see now we're in all of them except one, barely, is in the great area. 2 have come into that area this year, the consistency report and the fast and responsive. But if you can look at just in this year alone, the kind of progress that we've made in terms of net positive score this year. If you go back and look at historically, historically, over the past 5 years, you can see the tremendous progress that we made in terms of how much those scores have progressed over that period of time. Which really something to be proud of. If you look at the second question down, Terracon personnel demonstrate a commitment to working safely on projects. That's our second highest score, and that's come from not on the radar screen to be our second highest score over these past couple of years, and it's really great to see. So again, this is where the 3 R's get lived every day by all of the work that you do, and I want to let you know it's being absolutely noticed by individual clients, but collectively in terms of our leadership position nationally, if you add it all up around the country. The point of all of this being that in terms of our everyday operations, some truly remarkable things are happening, and I just wanted to thank you and congratulate you for that work that you're doing. With that, I want to just quickly talk about what I said before, which is it's about everyday operations, and it's also about more. It's about our purpose, it's about our strategic plan, and we do have a very specific, clear 5-year strategic plan with vision objectives. It looks at all 5 areas of our business: employees, clients, services, operations, financials. It's a very balanced approach. In the upper right is a picture of our strategic plan that the employees, all of you should have as an employee. If you don't, you can get the copy of that from your CSR, and I encourage you, 10 minutes spent with that strategic plan will help you engage in terms of how you can contribute and how you can benefit from being part of Terracon. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, I'd encourage you to do that. We also have annually a very disciplined approach to operations plans, and those talk about initiatives, specific tactics. What are we going to take on this year to implement our strategic plan? We can't take on everything all at once, and so we go through that process, and we have that operations plan. And I am going to transition now to starting to talk about the progress that we've made year to date on that. In terms of the overall operations plan for the company, I just want to lay it out here in a broad sense. And what I mean by that is as I said, we have 5 what we call pillars, or these areas of the company and functions within the company. You can see employees, clients, etc. on the top here. And with each of those, we decide each year, what are we going to take on in terms of improving how we go about doing our business. This is the change and improvement initiatives for the year that we're looking at within the company. And this is a sort of a map of the ones for this year. Safety, Mike's already talked about that. We launched Tarrant County University. I'll speak to that a little bit more. Industrial hygiene we'll talk about a little bit further. We have now in the past, through 13 and 14, established a very quality fundamentals of project management course that many, many people are going through. Vanessa's great work in social collaboration, you see. So that all of these things are being worked on every day as everyday things for the people involved with that, just like you are with clients, and they're being rolled out in various ways. The one coming up is Project Exchange, where we're taking what we're doing with project registration, portfolio registration, proposal portal, and putting all into a much improved, integrated application that you'll be using and we'll be rolling out later in the year. So this is what we mean in terms of the blocking and tackling, the implementation of tactics in our operations plan. So another visual I hope that you will take away here is that really what's going on in the company, what needs to go on, what you need to be part of is this and imperative, meaning we need to deliver every day, we need everyday operations, the 3 R's, and at the same time, we all need to be engaged in undergoing constant change and improvement, grabbing onto the new things that come down and making them part of how we do our work. So that's really how I see everything going on in the company. And again, I want to certainly recognize how we balance these is not easy. That may sometimes seem opposing and difficult at times, but it's a constant balancing act that we need to each of us play, both individually, in offices, as a company, and at all levels within the company. So the result of that is something that is the theme of this year's 2014 operations plan called Prosperous Growth. If we do as we do all of these things, and we are doing all of those things, the result of that is in a competitive marketplace, we can still grow and continue to prosper due to that growth. And I just wanted to put out there, as we talk about the word prosperous growth, and you can see it, what I want to make sure you understand, it doesn't mean just growth for growth's sake. It means it has to be safe, it has to be profitable, and not too much, not too little. So each of us, for an office, for a division, for a company, we need to be striving with a kind of a determined, do it no matter what determination, to be in that 10 to 20% slot for prosperous growth. As a company, Don mentioned we're at 13% year to date. If you include Neil Anderson, it'll be about 14, almost 15. So we're really right in the sweet spot of that slot that we're trying to do as a company. Too little is not dynamic. Too much is a financial strain. That's why we're setting this slot, and we're right in the middle of it, which is great to see. In January, I did presidencies. I just wanted to finish this section by just putting up here and mentioning why all this, how do we benefit from this really? And it's because by having this prosperous growth, we can improve financial well-being of the families that work for Terracon, promotions, benefits, retirement savings, and so on. For example, the amount of retirement savings contribution we make this year as a percent of compensation will go up because we're more profitable this year than it was last year. That's the kind of tangible ways that we share in our success together. We attract and grow and leverage and the right people. It allows us to be independent and set our own course as a multi-generation employee-owned company. It makes us more impressive and attractive to clients. Clients want to be with growing dynamic companies. Allows us to reinvest in the business. We talked about technology. We talked about equipment. A lot of things going on. We're investing multi-million dollars. Focus. In order to grow, we have to really be in touch with our clients, so staying ahead of their needs and understanding their needs. And what's really important here is that people want to be part of winners, and being a winner in business is growing. So it makes us feel part of a winning team. It makes us highly sought after for our suppliers and vendors. There are people, suppliers for that purchasing works with and so on, our laboratories for environmental, where they want to be on the Terracon wagon because they can see the future as being very beneficial. Supports attractive ownership in terms of stock return, and improves the communities where we live and work. So that's all that's possible, and it's all that's really occurring because of this prosperous growth within the company. So that was very much a big picture thing. Like I said, I'm very passionate about that, and I'm also working all the time to how can I do better and better job at communicating that to you and making it real, making it relevant, making it important to your jobs, because it is impacting, and we hope it is helping you in terms of how you go about your work each day. I want to finish up this section with a very brief overview of the operations plans results to date. And what I've put this in context is pluses, meaning key accomplishments, deltas where we've maybe done a little less than we had hoped to year to date, so I'll run through that. In terms of pluses, what the key pluses is safety. Michael's already talked about that, so I won't repeat any of that, but thank you, congratulations on the work there. Some key pluses we have worked on in many dimensions is all around this growth and this prosperous growth theme that we have for the year. These are all the specific things that are being worked on by champions with specific plans, engaging various people in operations to make happen. I'm going to talk about 4 of them in more detail. They're the ones that are bolded there. I won't go through the rest of them, but there's a lot of good things that are happening in terms of growth initiatives, diversification initiatives. Quality, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank Kevin Sharp, the team. We've really redone our authorized project review system and approach for the year. It's been overhauled, and we're hearing some great response to that, so really good to focus on that. Employee development, we really have in place at this point a lot of aspirations beyond that, but we have in place some great fundamentals of project management, supervision, office leadership. They're really established. To give you a sense of our commitment, about 600 people have gone through one or more of those over the past year, organized, focused courses, and it's really helping people in terms of their ability to perform and grow in their job. We've launched Terracon University. It's a very early stage kind of thing, but I can really do believe in the next 3 years you'll see Terracon University is your hub for learning and how you go about accessing learning within Terracon. Deltas, maybe I'll be, not to spin it, but be more brief, more for time. In terms of services, we have aspirations around services. We talk about some of them that I mentioned here, and I think we're making progress in all of those, but we always have, and there's always a sense that we want to go faster than we're able to go, and that's just the way of the world, and you can see some of these up here where we're not making as faster progress as we would like, but I think that's just maybe as much about our expectations. Business sectors, we're doing a great job at diversifying our client base. A lot of it is geotechnical heavy, and one of our plans for 15 would be to diversify those sectors even further. I'll talk about that a little bit more. Recruitment, we have a lot of work to do there. You'll be seeing some things like our employee referral program being refurbished and enhanced just as we speak. And again, I think our social collaboration has been a great launch. There's a high level of viewing. There's a more limited posting. So the main message up here is that jump in, be part of this. Sometimes you see some amazing things And so I encourage you in that. So what I want to do is just to, again, the facts and figures is important as the whole sense of it, go through quickly 4 of the initiatives that we're going through and just give you a progress report to date, but also connect it to more than just this initiative. So industrial hygiene, and in the third quarter report that we just, shareholder report I just issued yesterday, day before, I speak to this further, but this is an area of expansion in our strategic plan that is specifically called out, and we're really making some great progress. You can see year to date, our industrial hygiene revenues were up 33%, internally 22%. The second half, the more recent rate of growth is over 60%, and we're really attracting some great clients. Not just for industrial hygiene, but industrial hygiene is become our way in the door, but then again, the opportunity to sell in other areas as well. Asbestos, we're up 14%, a little more modest on the internal growth, 7%. But again, in terms of the second half, the more recent growth is nearly 50%, and that includes, and because of the acquisition of RGA on the West Coast, again, we're getting some traditional clients that we're better able to serve in more geographies. You can see the Walgreens and the Walmarts and the Regions banks. But we're also now being able to access even other kinds of clients, like in the power area, Duke and others, related to power plant decommissioning. These power plants have all kinds of asbestos materials, and we're involved with that, so it's an expansion area. And we're now ranked #1 in E&R in terms of our size, in terms of abatement, asbestos abatement and design consultants. So we really have established over the past 5 years, from this being a marginal piece of our business to being national leadership in this area. So it's great to see. And what it's about then is not just about asbestos. It's about, this demonstrates our ability to expand into adjacent services. Others that we have aspirations for will follow. Facilities, again, facilities was the hardest hit area during the recession of our business. But again, year to date, profit-wise, they're a swing of about $1 million of increased profit for this year. Revenues are up 18%, and I think it'll finish higher than that. The building envelope, as I mentioned before, is coming into its own. Its revenue growth is about 50% this year. I spoke to that a little bit earlier. Property condition assessments, which are tied to environmental site assessments, are growing, back again growing 10%. We expect about a 20% growth overall for the year, so we're back strong in that game, getting stronger in that game. And again, to meet our aspirations for facilities, we are going to have to make additional acquisitions, and we do have a solid acquisition pipeline that's developing, meaning a list of firms that we are targeting and talking to. So facilities is back on track. Business sectors. These are the sectors of business that we have traditionally not done as much work in, and we've made a conscious, organized investment in of people and to expand into. Power generation and transmission has really come into its own. Revenues are up 42%, $20 million. We'll probably do about $30 million for the year. This is really becoming players in the power generation and transmission. There's some great collaboration going on there. Transportation and infrastructure up 18%. Design build at 30% up. Overall, we were on track to be about $82 million in revenues in transportation. This is one of the areas that is more geotechnical heavy, and I think the opportunity for diversification is there. But we are definitely major national players teamed up with the primes in terms of transportation. Government, again, we've had a bit of a rough patch, but we've really won some great recent work for the federal government in particular, and those are mentioned here. So diversification of our client base, why it's important is just like the diversification of your financial portfolio. It helps us with the financial security of the firm, but it also helps us in terms of interesting, different, new, bigger types of projects that we can all work on. So this is a great example of our ability to do that. Finally, I just want to mention the West Coast expansion has been an aspiration for the company. And now with Neil Anderson and RGA, which we welcome to the company, they've added $16 million of revenue. And if you look at that in our internal growth, which is substantial, we're on track for about a 200% growth rate in the West Coast operations of Terracon this year. And in terms of not just growth for growth's sake, it's really our Oakland office and our Sacramento office combined with either RGA or NOA have really significantly enhanced our position in the marketplace. We've added Lodi in Concord. We have increased our asbestos capability in the Orange County office in Seattle. So really this is more than just revenue. This is about capability enhancement, and it's about market presence, and we're really emerging at the emerging stage in the West Coast as being significant players. And again, we're doing this even especially in California, where the business environment is not easy at all. The last here I want to talk about is what I call looking ahead. And again, I won't go through these. Just take a moment to maybe read through them. What I put them up there for is because it goes back to what I said before, this idea of we have a strategy, we have a plan. That plan involves initiatives. They need to be implemented. And for the last part of the year, these are the things coming down the pike, so to speak, in terms of implementations that you'll be seeing in the company in various ways. And again, this is how do each one affects different groups of people within the company, but it's important for you to, as you see these coming, as they apply to you, to jump in, be part of it, grab onto them, and make them part of your operations. A couple that I'll mention here is that some of this involves constant improvement in our technology. Our ARMS is our asbestos software that we use that's going to be enhanced and rolled out. This project exchange, the one I mentioned before, it'll be rolled out. This is how we register and manage our projects. One of them also is in terms of this whole beginning of the career path and enhancement of how we communicate the compensation and benefits of employees, is this getting their job descriptions and people classified properly. So there's a lot going on there, and I just wanted to give you a preview of that. Just to finish up then, and Vanessa take a minute on communications, but I just wanted to presence here some of the views of employees within the company and how they see where we are, where we're going as a company. I won't read these quotes, but I just wanted to, especially some of the key words. So if you look at Belinda, she talks about our high regard for quality as a key part of the company and what she sees as why she's proud. Bill talks about enjoys being part of a team. Scott talks about being part of a community, meaning the Terracon community. Teresa talks about the company that shares her family values. Matt talks about Terracon genuinely caring about us. Stephanie talks about belonging to something bigger. This is part of the purpose thing we talked about. And then Jim talking about we care about one another. So these are just some words from our employees, and what this is all about is remember that puzzle piece that I talked about earlier. How do we make that puzzle piece real and relevant and important to each of you? And this is about this idea of being independent, setting our own course, and allowing ourselves to benefit from all of that. So I really appreciate what everybody's doing, and I'm sure there are many others that could speak to these kind of things. So with that, Vanessa will take a moment on communications, and I'll come back for our last slide.
Thank you. All right, what I wanted to do is just give you kind of a 5-month snapshot of what's going to be coming out for all employees and things that you would want to pay attention to. Number one being that we just released the third quarter shareholders report, so you can get that on the homepage of Terranet. You can pull that up, print it 11 by 17 front and back, and view that. in whenever you'd like. So that's out there for all shareholders, and we're all shareholders because most of us are in the 401k. Second thing is it's that time of year. It's annual enrollment. So you're going to see benefits enrollment books hitting your office at the end of October. And then annual enrollment will start on November 3rd. So that's the time to change your benefits, change your 401k contributions, and sign up for individual stock ownership if you choose. And then the third thing on this page is Inside Terracon. Expect that in November we're going to have another Inside Terracon hit the office, and that will be more of a business-focused issue. So that will come to the office and not the home. The home ones have been focused on Terracon Foundation and what you all are doing in the community. I wanted to just take a minute and plug social collaboration, because I think what's great is we are seeing a lot of great momentum starting to happen with social. It's been a year and a half, and people have slowly come onto the system. I think we're having a lot of people watch what others are posting, and then others kind of slowly commenting out there. But we're going to really beef up the training. We're going to really be targeting some groups, technicians. We're going to be trying to engage more in this. But I think, you know, one thing that I really enjoyed last week was this post on timesheet integrity. And I think that really captured what social was all about. We had a lot of employees jump on and have really real and authentic conversation about that. And those of us who didn't jump on watched it and learned something from it. I know I've been here 10 years, and I learned by reading through that, and I think that's what social is all about. So look forward to more in that environment. On the homepage on Terranet, we do have a calendar of events that we are constantly improving. So that's where you can go to find out what are the webcasts, what are the training opportunities in addition to the university that I can watch coming up in the next couple weeks or so. And then in January, we will have another all-employee meeting just like this to talk about what's coming up for 2015. And then finally, I wanted to mention that a lot of you already know this, but 2015 is our 50th anniversary year. So that's very exciting, and right now we're in the process of determining all of the different ways that we can celebrate how far we've come, where we're at now, and also imagine where we're going to be 50 years from now. So that is communications, and I'll turn it back over to you, David.
Well, thank you. As I said at the beginning, this webcast is just one mechanism, and there are many others that Vanessa lined out to how we're trying to communicate. We are constantly open to how we might adapt that and modify that and improve that. So if you ever have comments about any of the mechanisms that we do and multiple channels we do to reach out on communications, please feel free to get with Vanessa, and she's very open to that, and we'll continue to work on that. So what I wanted to leave with is, again, in the biggest sense, we've talked about this idea of continuing our success as a company. It's certainly poignant to talk about it in the context of the next 50 years as well as the past 50 years, and to really have an owner's view. So I want to leave with a few takeaways with that. So because you are a business owner, what do you do practically speaking in that regard? Keeping in mind that five-piece puzzle and that visual in mind, just some things I would like to suggest as takeaways as we go back to this everyday work that we do. Certainly, number one, make sure you and everybody you work with is safe. Number one, by far. Continue to provide the 3 R's, outstanding client service. As I showed you in that client survey, the clients are noticing. It's making a difference. It's really moving the needle. And if you look at it individually, it's great to see. But if you do it collectively and across the country, that's national leadership. People start to get a buzz about that. It's really making a difference. So continue that. It's amazing. Continue to learn and develop new knowledge and skills every week. So what I'm saying is that we have all this stuff, that's what we just talked about, that keeps coming down the pike. It's not going to stop. It's going to keep going. So how do you deal with that? My practical advice to you is every week, find a little bit of time, from 15 minutes to 45 minutes to a half an hour to an hour, where you can learn some new things, some new tools that just come into play, some new things on TerraNet. Look at this every week thing. It's going to be important for you to continue to be able to contribute, stay relevant, and up to speed on what's going on, because a lot of things are happening. Certainly for all of us, to find our role in opportunities for new work, we all have a role to play in business development, and we really need to make sure we just emphasize that in the culture of the company. As Don talked about, we are employee owners, so be prudent, be careful about expenses. It adds up, because each of us times $1 here, $1 there, $10, $100 times 3,000 people adds up a lot within the company. And again, the overall hope on my part is that you see how you can be a part of contributing to our purpose, values, and vision for the company, and making that real, not just to yourself, but to your colleagues, to our clients, to all the communities where we live and work. So it's a much bigger piece of that than just the day-to-day job. So with that, I wanted to say congratulations on the excellent results first half of the year. Let's finish strong. And most importantly, I want to say thank you for all that you've done for our continued success and the momentum that we have in the company. So with that, again, thanks, and have a great rest of the day.